I was 24 when it all started spinning. Now, 3 years later, I still give mushrooms a sideways look at the store. Even plain button mushrooms send a chill through me. It began when Josh Lawson bought a 1985 Ford Escort from his uncle. The car was ancient, an 85, but it ran. Josh worked as a sysadmin in a small firm and was always whining that he was sick of racks, dust, and endless reboots. Gotta get out into nature, man. Reboot the head, not the servers. We saw each other a lot. The third in our trio was Mark Vance, the calmest of us, an accountant, glasses, precision down to the inch. I was installing satellite dishes in apartment buildings, decent work. People were just starting to connect to digital TV en masse. On Friday, September 7th, Josh burst into our cafe with blazing eyes. In his hands, a printout from a forum about mushroom spots. Look what I sniffed out. Some old guy near Tver dropped a location, milk caps all over the place, and nobody goes there. Mark adjusted his glasses and skimmed it. How far? About 150 kilometers. In the Escort we'll fly. We head out tomorrow morning. We're there by lunchtime. We'll pick a load, camp overnight, and head back Sunday. I wasn't crazy about mushrooms, but I wanted to escape stuffy Moscow. The cafe air felt like a battery cabinet. Got a tent? I've got a 2-person on the balcony. Tight but will fit. We agreed. Saturday, 7 a.m., North Side, at Josh's place. I swung by a sporting goods store, folding knife, headlamp. At home I packed a sweater, socks, canned food, bread, a thermos. Saturday was overcast, dry. The Escort was tolerable and even cozy in its own way. Josh listened to the engine. Once we left the city, the road smoothed out. Mark pulled out a tiny Sony radio and caught some Russian rock. With Mashina Vremeny playing, we rolled up the northern highway, then turned onto a smaller road, just like the forum advised. The places got remote. Villages with crooked houses and metal roofs. Now and then a fresh cottage with corrugated steel, and then emptiness again. There's the turn to the forest. We turned onto a dirt road. The Escort hopped on the bumps but pulled confidently. 15 minutes later the forest closed in. We're here. The forest smelled of wet leaves and mushroom damp. The air was right, not Moscow air. We left the car on the shoulder and went deeper in. According to the directions, 1 kilometer along the path, at the fallen birch turn right and go another couple hundred meters. The path was well worn, like it had been tread for ages. Birches, aspens, patches of dark fir. First yellow leaves rustling underfoot. Here and there lone birch boletes and rasulas. There's the birch. Looks like the one. The trunk was as thick as a wheel. We climbed over and headed right. The trail got thinner, but didn't disappear. 200 meters in, the forest suddenly opened up and we spilled into a clearing. We just stopped. Our mouths opened on their own. Milk caps were everywhere. White, springy, like saucers, clustered in families of 5 or 6. You seeing this? A treasure. We spread out our bags and went to work. The mushrooms came like on rails. Young, firm, no worms. In half an hour we'd picked so many we had to haul them to the car with smoke breaks. Maybe that's enough? We're building a prison out of plastic bags. You'd leave this? You don't leave this. We set up the tent and stay the night. Tomorrow we finish the job. It was around 4. Plenty of time till dark. Where do we pitch? Right on the clearing? Of course, tons of space. And the mushrooms at our elbow. We hauled the tent and gear. On the trail an old man came toward us with a basket. Worn jacket, rubber boots, wind-burned face, gray stubble. Hey there, Grandpa. You picking too? Where are you barging off to? To the clearing past the fallen birch. It's made for picking. That one? Boys, you can't. Since when? It's a bad place. I've walked here 40 years. People go around it. What's bad in a forest? Bears. Not bears. Worse. Don't go there after sunset. Leave while it's still light. What is it? What's the use of telling you? Young folks, remember this. Once it gets dark, run out of the forest. He left us with his ban. Superstitions. He's heard too many campfire stories. Mark frowned. Maybe we really shouldn't camp? We've got a ton already. We're not kids. We stayed. By 6 the tent stood in the center of the clearing. Kindling, pasta with canned stew, tea. Dusk crept in, we threw on more wood. An owl hooted in the distance, somewhere a dry branch clicked. Beautiful. This is it, switching the city off. A soft paperback in Mark's hands, headlamp light. I lay there looking at the sky. In the city the stars get eaten, but here they're strewn everywhere. Around 10 we crawled into the tent. Only the guys had sleeping bags. I covered up with a jacket and sweater. Hard, but bearable. Night, mushroom men. Night. The fire outside the wall was dying, embers whispering. The forest breathed its little sounds. I was almost out when leaves rustled next to the tent. But the air was still. The rustle came again, careful steps about 10 meters away. Josh, you hear that? What? Someone's walking. Silence for a couple heartbeats, and again the rustle, clearer now. A hedgehog. It didn't sound confident. The rustle cut off. We lay there listening. The darkness in the tent was dense, you didn't want to turn on a light. And then, dry twigs snapping. Under someone's feet. Very close. That's not a hedgehog. I found my headlamp, clicked it, the beam slashed the fabric. Our faces were pale. Maybe an elk? An elk would clomp like a train. This is sneaking. Outside the rustling started again. Now the sound moved in a circle, slowly with pauses. Rustle, pause, snap, pause, rustle. A person. Circling us. My gut cramped. We were in the middle of deep woods. The village was far. Who would be wandering here at night? A lost mushroom picker? At night. The silence stretched thick. And then a new sound, someone digging. Like when we dug a pit for the fire, short strikes, the whisper of thrown soil. Digging. 10 minutes. Then it went quiet. None of us dared go out. Our thoughts circled back to the old man. He could have come, to play scary, to drive us off his patch. Snapping again, but the sound drifted into the forest. He's gone. We listened a while longer. The silence was syrupy. Sleep crept up, I slipped under. I was shaken awake by a hand on my shoulder. Get up. They're back. Behind the tent, again rustling, snapping. And digging. Not in one place, several at once. I looked at my watch, 3:30. More than an hour till dawn. How many? 3, maybe 4. You hear? They're digging everywhere. We lay there listening to someone methodically turning over the clearing. Sometimes one chop-chop would stop and start up elsewhere. It felt like they were searching for something specific and not finding it. It dragged on until the light went gray. The tent fabric lightened, the sounds thinned, then vanished. The last thing, a rustle retreating into the depths of the forest. They're gone. I think. To be sure, we waited another half hour. The zipper, a rasp of cold air, and we tumbled out. The clearing looked like after a mortar barrage. Knee-deep pits, mounds of soil. Our dead fire buried under dirt. Right by the tent, fresh dig marks. What the? We walked the perimeter. More than 24 holes. Not deep, but neat, each had its own little pile of earth. Some showed roots, some bare back of soil. What were they looking for? I crouched by one hole. Fresh wet earth, mushroom smell. On the edge, a clear print. Look. The print was odd, narrow, too long for a woman's foot and too narrow for a man's. And deep, as if whoever stepped there was as heavy as a safe. What size? 45, but narrow. We found more of the same. All identical. The same soles, by different pits. One person. We heard them in several places at once. Then why do all the footprints match? And the mushrooms? Yesterday the clearing was white, today it was empty. Even where they hadn't dug. They could have picked them. Then why dig? We broke camp in silence. The desire to finish the beauty evaporated. With yesterday's bags we headed for the car. On the trail, there he was again, the old man. Walking with an empty basket. He saw us, stopped. Well, did you listen to the old man? We camped. Old man, Do you understand what's happening out there? Did you see anyone? We heard them. All night. And in the morning, the whole clearing dug up. Many holes. More than 24. Bad. Means it started again. What's again? Alright. Listen, since you're so stubborn. He looked at us like we were already dead. I warned you. They always dig there at night. Not people. Who then? He dropped his eyes. Something left something in the ground and has long been looking to get it back. Archaeologists stumbled on it in the 70s. They hauled half of it out. The rest grew into the earth. Since then, every autumn it stirs. We stood nailed in place. Are you serious? He nodded. In the village they know, don't set foot on that clearing. Once, some boys were taken, only shoulder blades and boots were found. Since then, silence. We said nothing. The forest around us suddenly grew thick, viscous, as if it were listening. Go, he said, before it's too late. We didn't argue. We got back to Moscow without a word. We gave the mushroom bags to a neighbor, we didn't touch them. The next day the news, 2 mushroom pickers disappeared near that very village. A highway camera caught their SUV, and then the trail went dead. Mark called first. You hear? About the missing guys. Josh laughed hoarsely. Maybe they stuck their noses into the clearing too. You think it's funny? We were there. I said we shouldn't get involved. But inside, the cold spread. A week later the weirdness began. In Mark's entryway, a hole right in the asphalt, as if the ground had been turned inside out. The janitor swore it had been cleaned the night before. In Josh's yard, a flower bed dug up deep, roots sticking out. Under my window, earth ripped up, like someone had been searching. We met at the cafe. Red eyes, no sleep. They came for us. Who? The ones who dig. Nonsense. Kids messing around. Kids at night under my building? And the prints. I took out my phone and showed the photo. On wet soil, a footprint. Same as in the forest. A long, narrow foot, pressed deep. The same one. What do we do? Silence hung. Josh picked at his mug. Maybe we give the mushrooms back? Burn them? Too late. They're gone. They disappeared. We looked at each other. The next day Mark didn't answer his phone. That evening they found his car. The door open, documents on the seat, tracks in the mud leading to a wasteland. I called Josh. Nothing. I ran to his place, police in the yard. A knee-deep hole and a boot beside it. One boot. I ran home in a panic. Locked every lock, but at 3 a.m. I woke to a sound. Under the floor. Digging. Slow, measured like that night. I slid off the bed and pressed my ear to the boards. The sound was right beneath me. Scrape, dull blows. Then a rustle and a quiet voice. Inhuman, dry, like wind in earth. Return. I don't know what I'm supposed to return. After that night I hardly slept. Every rustle, every sound from below or outside pulsed in my temples. Mark was gone. With Josh they found only a boot and a hole. It was just me now. The next day I decided to check. Maybe the old man wasn't just a babbler. I dug through archives. Online I found old newspaper clippings. The 1970s, Kalinin region, an expedition of archaeologists from Moscow. It all lined up. The blurb mentioned an unusual burial. No details. I felt the puzzle snapping together. They found something alien, took it away, and now that something is searching for the rest. In the ground, under houses, under our feet. That evening I packed a backpack, flashlight, knife, phone, spare batteries. And I headed to that clearing. I wanted to be sure this was real, not just the product of an overheated imagination. The road felt longer than before. The forest stood bare, branches black, the silence sharp. I recognized the clearing at once. Its torn-up face looked like a graveyard now. The holes had filled with leaves, but you could see the earth had been dug again recently. Fresh tracks, the same long, narrow ones. Dozens of them. I turned on the flashlight and walked to the center. And then from behind the trees came the familiar sounds. Crunching, steps, a cautious circling movement. Just like around the tent that night. Only now I was alone. "Who's there?" burst out of me. No answer. Only the ground trembled underfoot, as if someone were digging deep down. I shone the light down. In one of the holes the soil was faintly shivering, as if something from inside was pushing up. I recoiled. But curiosity won out. I leaned closer. The damp earth twitched and fingers appeared. Long, narrow, with black claws. They fumbled along the rim, searching for purchase, and slowly pulled upward. I bolted. The forest ahead was a black wall, but I ran till I was out of breath. When I stopped, I realized I'd reached the road. The car was where I'd left it. The engine caught on the first turn, and I tore toward Moscow, afraid to look back. At home I locked up, turned off the lights, lay down, but sleep didn't come. At midnight I heard it again. First a quiet rustle, then strikes, like a shovel on asphalt. Under my windows. I peeked carefully. A figure stood in the yard. Tall, gaunt, with long arms. It was digging. Right under my window. Slowly, methodically, as if it knew I was watching. Then it lifted its head. Green eyes met mine. They glowed dimly like will-o'-the-wisps. I jerked back, my heart plunging. When I looked again, it was gone. Only a fresh hole under the building. I didn't know where to turn. By day, archives, articles, searching for mentions. By night, steps and digging. I realized it wouldn't stop. It was searching. But for what? Bones? The pieces the archaeologists took? Or us, the ones who disturbed it? I knew, alone, I wouldn't manage. I had to find someone tied to those digs. In the archives I stumbled on a name, Professor Samuel Platt, a historian who'd taken part in the late 70s expedition. Was he still alive? Online I found a mention, an emeritus, retired, living near Moscow. I dialed. My fingers shook. A weak but clear voice answered. "Yes, I'm Platt. Who are you?" "I need to talk. It concerns the Kalinin expedition. 1978. The pause on the other end was heavy. "Come tomorrow. But I warn you, you'd be better off not knowing." I went. The house was old, wooden, smelling of books and dust. The professor opened the door himself, gray-haired, stooped, eyes bright and prickly. "Come in. Tell me why you're here." I spilled everything. The clearing, the nights of digging, my friends vanishing. He listened in silence, his knuckles whitening. "So it's searching again," he said quietly. "What is it?" "What we raised. Back in the 70s. A young student opened a grave. There were bones, but not human. A narrow skull, elongated jaws, teeth like an animal's. We took them to Moscow, to the Anthropology Institute. A month later the remains were gone. Gone. Just vanished. The storage was locked, the seals intact, but the crate was empty. No one understood how. I sat there, not believing. What was it? Old records from local priests say, and Uper, a ghoul. When a corpse eater was found, they buried it outside the villages, in deep forests. Surrounded with iron, covered with holy soil. People knew and feared that clearing. We ruined it. I remembered the green eyes at my window. It's looking for its bones? Yes. Until they're found, it won't rest. It'll dig every night. But if it reaches what was taken to Moscow, then it will return in full. What do I do? I almost shouted. The professor raised a finger. There's a rite. Church. I found the notes. You can symbolically bury it again. An oak box, an iron cross, consecrated soil, prayers for 40 days. Even without the bones, the rite can close it. You'll help me? He closed his eyes for a moment, then nodded. I will. But understand, it won't let you perform the rite in peace. It will come. And then it depends on whether you can hold out. We agreed to meet on Saturday. I was to bring candles and incense. He'd bring the texts. He promised to get an iron cross through a friend. On the way back through Moscow, I felt a foreign gaze. In every shop window reflection, a shadow behind me. On the metro, in the entryway, even at home behind the curtain. I knew it was waiting. And this time, it wouldn't wait long. Saturday morning I met the professor at the metro. He had an old leather briefcase and a small bundle. He was silent the whole way, only crossing himself now and then, staring out the bus window. The cross is in the bundle? Yes. Iron forged. The real thing. And the soil. From a cemetery. Consecrated. Everything as in the records. We got off at the highway and walked the familiar road. The nearer the forest, the heavier the air grew. Villages fell behind. Black fields and sparse firs stretched around us. The forest greeted us with damp and dead quiet. It was the same clearing, torn up, with collapses and sinkholes, as if it had been ripped apart for weeks. Melting snow bared fresh earth. This is where the first grave was. We took up the shovels. The top layer was frozen, but below it gave way easily, as if it opened itself. In an hour the pit was ready. The professor took out an oak casket, filled it with holy earth, and set the cross. The candles caught, incense curled in smoke. He opened a book and began to chant in Church Slavonic. His voice trembled, but the words sounded strong, as if from deep time. The first hour passed quietly. I began to believe we'd make it. And then the forest woke. First far away and then closer, crunching, steps, branches snapping. Exactly like that night. It's coming. A figure stepped out from the trees. Tall, stick-thin, arms to the ground, head elongated. It didn't hurry. It came on slowly, like a master returning home. Green eyes burned in the dusk. The reading grew louder, covering the sudden wind that rose. The thing came to the edge of the clearing and stopped. It stepped closer and recoiled as if it had hit an invisible wall. It circled, howling the silence to pieces. Sometimes it lunged, but each time something threw it back. Read, don't stop. The figure howled, and several holes around us began to stir at once. The earth heaved as if dozens of hands were pushing up from below. Fingers reached from the soil, as long and black as the things. I gripped the cross, feeling the metal burn my palm. The thing howled again, stretched out a hand and struck the unseen barrier. The air vibrated, my ears popped. Just a little more. The figure writhed, reached for us, raked the earth with its claws. The holes gaped, but nothing climbed out. The chanting didn't stop. The last words, he crossed the grave 3 times. The figure let out a howl that stopped my heart. Then it began to thin. First the arms vanished, then the stretched out body. The eyes were the last to go dark. The field fell quiet. The ground settled, the holes stopped moving. Only the cross stood in the center and the smell of incense hung. That's it. It should calm now. We gathered the candles and headed back. The forest was quiet, wintry, peaceful. But inside, something still whispered, not all. 3 months passed. Winter dragged on, but the silence held. No steps outside the windows, no holes under buildings. I almost believed the professor was right. The right had worked. We met sometimes. He looked tired but calm. It's over, he'd say. Sometimes monsters go back to the earth. The main thing is not to disturb them again. I wanted to believe. I lived a normal life, worked, shopped. But deep down a chill sat. I stopped eating mushrooms, even button mushrooms. Every time I passed the produce section, I remembered the clearing. In the spring I woke at night to a strange sound. Like someone scratching the wall behind the wardrobe. I lay there a long time listening. The sound faded. In the morning I decided I'd dreamed it. A week later the professor called. His voice was hoarse, blown out. Immediately, I came to his house. He sat in a chair, pale, his hands shaking. On the wall behind him, deep gouges. Long, parallel, as if something had clawed the plaster. It's back, he said. It didn't rest. I didn't know what to say. He went on. We closed it, but not forever. I read further. The notes say, if the bones aren't found, it will return. Every spring. I remembered the earth heaving on the clearing and realized this was only a pause. That night I dreamed I was back there, among holes. The moon shone, the snow had melted, the ground was pocked with pits. I leaned over one, and saw an eye. Green, glowing. It stared straight at me. I woke drenched in cold sweat. A couple days later the news flashed. 2 mushroom pickers disappeared again near Tver. On the Mushroom Foragers Forum a post appeared. The clearing is all dug up. No mushrooms. Heard footsteps at night. Got out by the skin of our teeth. I called the professor. Did you see the news? I saw. It's beginning. I asked what to do. He was silent for a long time. If we find its bones, we can end it. But where they are, nobody knows. The archives are empty. The institute keeps quiet. Maybe they threw them out long ago. Or maybe they're still nearby. We sat at his place, night thick outside. And then above us, across the roof, came a heavy step. Then another. Plaster sifted down from the ceiling. We both froze. It's looking for us, the professor said. It won't let go. I realized our story was only the middle. The real part would start when we tried to find what it was looking for. We started in the archives. First online, then in person. At the Anthropology Institute on University Avenue, the secretary just shrugged. The 70s? Those archives have long been closed. The lists are lost. The professor insisted. They took us to the basement storage. It smelled of dust and old paper. Boxes of expedition cards. Dates, names, brief descriptions of finds. We searched for the Kalinin region, 1978. After a couple of hours we found it. A yellowed card, pencil scrawl, unusual burial, skull, elongated, teeth sharp. Then a note, transferred to storage number 4. We went to the storage. The guard, a gray-haired old man, eyed us warily. Nothing here. Old collections were written off long ago. If you want anything, try the museum. The professor showed him the card. He was quiet a long time, then nodded. People looked for this before you. 3 years ago, some men came. Said they were from the ministry. Signed papers, took the crate. Where? Don't know. Didn't leave documents. We stepped outside. The wind slapped my face. The professor looked 10 years older. So the remains are in someone else's hands. What does that mean? It means it's not only searching the ground. It's searching for the ones who hold its flesh. If the bones are in Moscow, then it will be here. That night I heard it again. Under the windows, digging. Not one hole now, but several at once. As if dozens of hands were tearing at the ground together. I looked out. The yard was empty, but the asphalt quivered, and in the morning fresh sinkholes pocked the lot. The professor called in the morning. It's closer. Why me, specifically? Because you saw the clearing. To it you're tied to the grave. We pushed on. Through the professor's old contacts we reached a former institute employee. He agreed to meet that evening at a cafe in the old quarter. A man around 60, eyes burned out. He spoke quietly. I remember that crate. They kept it in a special sector. Showed it to no one. Then the order came, transfer to a closed laboratory. Officially, for study. Unofficially, nobody knows. Where's the laboratory? North of the region. A closed site. There's security now. We exchanged glances. And now what? I asked. Now it will search there. If it hasn't already. The professor stared into his tea. If it reaches the bones, the right won't stop it. It'll be whole. I looked at the cafe windows and thought I caught green eyes in the reflection. We wavered for a long time. Going to the base was madness. But sitting and waiting for it to find the bones itself was worse. The professor said it straight. We don't have much time. If it becomes whole, neither cross nor prayer will save us. We left in the evening. The professor's old Volga rattled along the highway, the headlights carving pieces of road from the dark. Empty villages flicked past, rare house lights. The farther north, the bleaker it got. On the shoulders, derelict buildings, scorched signs, lonely street lamps. The scariest thing is it could beat us there, the professor said. Then we'll be driving straight to it. I tried not to think about it. I held the flashlight and the iron cross like a talisman. Around 11 the road sank into forest. Trees stood as a wall. The headlights barely pierced the dark. Suddenly the car jolted, the engine coughed and died. We stopped in the middle of nowhere. The professor hit the wheel. Damn, a battery. We got out. The wind tugged with damp. The sky was overcast, no moon. Silence rang. From the forest came a sound. Crunching. Steps. Slow, careful, as if something were circling us. It's here, the professor said. I turned on the flashlight. The beam jittered between trunks, no one there. Only fresh tracks in the mud by the shoulder, the same ones, long, narrow, deeply pressed. We went back into the car and locked the doors. We saw the figure 5 minutes later. It stood off to the side, among the trees. Tall, stretched thin, green eyes burning, arms almost touching the ground. It just watched. Don't get out, said the professor. As long as the circle is. If this story got under your skin and you want more, stay with us. Subscribe, hit like so you don't miss the moment the next plot knocks on the door. Drop one word in the comments that clung to you today. That word might start our next story.